Have you ever felt that familiar knot of anxiety, right before an important work meeting? Maybe you're wondering if your words really convey confidence, professionalism, or maybe you worry they might be misunderstood, especially if you're navigating a new cultural context like the U.S. workplace. That feeling, that hesitation, and something pretty much everyone experiences at some point. And today, we're not just going to talk about it, we're going to tackle it head on. So let's just imagine for a second you're Alex, a really talented professional, but new to a U.S. company. That knot of anxiety we mentioned, Alex feels it. Before every team meeting, every casual hallway greeting, even every email she types. Today, we're aiming to give Alex and, by extension, you the exact roadmap to confidently navigate these moments. A clear, actionable pathway to sounding polished, assured, impactful, but without sounding, well, artificial. We're doing a deep dive into mastering professional communication, specifically in the U.S. workplace. Our source material for this mission. It's an incredibly practical guide called How to Speak Professionally at Work in the USA.
It's just packed with insights, breaking down the absolute essentials. So our mission is to pull out the most vital nuggets of wisdom, the practical strategies from this guide, and give you a real shortcut. A shortcut to becoming exceptionally well-informed and confident in your professional interactions. This isn't about memorizing rigid rules or complex grammar. It's really about understanding the style of communication, the style that builds trust and respect in an American professional environment. When I first started digging into this material, one of the first things that really struck me was this kind of counterintuitive idea about professionalism. I guess I always thought it was about using the most impressive vocabulary, stringing together complex sentences to show how smart you are. But right off the bat, our sources hit us with this insight that honestly made me reevaluate what professional even means. A lot of us might think sounding professional means using the biggest, most complicated words we know. But in U.S. workplaces, the exact opposite is often true. It's not just preferred, it's really about what's effective.
Exactly. And what's really insightful there is how this focus on simplicity and precision ties into broader U.S. cultural values. Things like time as a commodity and the drive for immediate, unambiguous action. In many other cultures, sure, nuanced language or elaborate phrasing might signal respect or maybe intellectual depth. But in the American workplace, complexity can actually be seen as a barrier. Even in inefficiency, it's really about getting to the point, fostering swift understanding, and enabling quick decision making. And that builds a reputation for competence and effectiveness. This approach, well, it prioritizes effective and efficient understanding above almost everything else. When you're clear and direct, you save time, you reduce ambiguity, and you project this sense of confidence and competence.
And that distinction becomes really, really clear when you look at the examples in our source. Just consider these two sentences. I am endeavoring to ascertain the viability of this project. You hear that, and it sounds, well, very formal, right?
Well,
Almost like something out of an old movie or maybe a legal document. Now compare that to, I'm looking into whether this project will work.
precisely. That first sentence, I mean, it's grammatically correct, sure, technically understandable, but it just sounds overly heavy, almost artificial in a typical American business setting. It kind of creates an unnecessary barrier rather than helping communication. It makes the listener work harder, to get to the core message. The second one, though, it's clear, it's direct, immediately understandable. It communicates the exact same thing, but does it efficiently and naturally. And that's overwhelmingly preferred. This initial aha moment, it really sets the stage for our whole discussion today. True professionalism isn't about using big words to impress people. It's about being understood effectively and efficiently. It's about fostering connection and driving action. Being impactful, not just impressive.
Laying the foundation core principles of professional communication.
That's a really powerful distinction. So it's not just about being grammatically correct, it's about genuine communication effectiveness. And this idea of context, it seems absolutely crucial. Our sources introduce us to what they call the triad of effective communication: tone, register, and phrasing. These three elements, they're truly foundational. They work together to shape how your message actually lands.
Right. And the key insight here is how these seemingly subtle elements combine to shape not just what you say, but how it's received by your audience. First, let's talk about tone. This is how you say things, the emotional quality in your voice. It's that nonverbal layer that subtly signals your intent, your emotional state. It's not just confidence versus uncertainty. It's about conveying urgency or empathy or even subtle influence. Think about how the exact same request, could you look into this by end of day, can sound completely different. It could be a firm directive, a gentle reminder, maybe even a subtle test of initiative, all depending on the vocal tone. Mastering tone lets you calibrate your message precisely for the impact you want, both relationally and functionally. It can make you sound decisive or approachable or authoritative, all without changing a single word. Next up is register. This is all about your word choice along that formal-informal spectrum. It's like the linguistic wardrobe you pick for the occasion. You wouldn't talk to your CEO in a board meeting using the same casual slang you'd use with a close friend at happy hour.
Right? Definitely not.
So professional communication in the U.S. involves adapting your language, adapting it to the specific workplace context and the dynamics of your relationship with the person you're talking to. This means knowing when to use standard professional vocabulary and when a slightly more relaxed but still appropriate approach works. The goal isn't just to avoid being stiff and unnatural. It's also about steering clear of language that might come across as unprofessional or disrespectful or just not serious enough. It's about finding that sweet spot where you're both respected and, relatable. And finally, there's phrasing. These are the expressions that just sound natural to native speakers, the common idioms, turns of phrase, those professional cliches that are widely understood and accepted. For instance, instead of saying something like, let us commence the meeting forthwith, a much more natural, professional phrasing would be, let's get started right away.
It's simpler.
Exactly. Or instead of, please elucidate your proposition, a common American professional phrase is, could you explain your idea? Using the right phrasing really helps you sound authentic, integrated into the workplace culture. It helps you avoid sounding like you're reading from a textbook or translating literally in your head. Instead, your communication flows more effortlessly. It signals you're comfortable and capable in that environment.
So when we connect this to the bigger picture, these elements, tone, register, phrasing, they aren't just isolated ideas. They combine to help you strike that perfect balance our source mentions, being respectful and natural. It's about navigating that space where you convey professionalism without losing your authentic voice or sounding like you're, well, trying too hard. It's a dance, really. Appropriate language and confident delivery. Okay. So building on that foundation, our sources highlight three core principles. These form the absolute pillars of a professional presence in the U.S. workplace. These are the bedrock, and truly understanding them can transform how people see you.
Absolutely. These principles are what lets you build that reputation. The reputation of being a clear, competent, and respected professional. Just like Alex striving to make her mark. The first one is politeness without being weak. Now, this might seem like a contradiction to some people, especially if you come from a culture where politeness might be seen as deference or maybe a sign of hesitation. But in the U.S. workplace, being professional means being consistently respectful of others, their time, their contributions, but never to the point where you seem submissive or indecisive. It's about asserting yourself respectfully, clearly stating your position or needs, but always maintaining courtesy. For example, imagine a situation where you need something clarified. Instead of just interrupting someone or demanding information bluntly like, explain that, phrases like, could you clarify that point for me, work much better. Or, could you elaborate on that, please? These show respect for their input, but still let you get the information you need. Or, say a discussion is going off topic in a meeting. A phrase like, let's revisit this idea later. I want to ensure we stay on track for today's agenda. Lets you politely steer the conversation back. You're not being abrupt or dismissive. This isn't just polite, it actually demonstrates leadership. Control over the conversation's flow. It's that nuance of asserting your position or guiding a conversation with grace and sort of quiet authority. And that, in turn, builds your political capital and influence.
That distinction between politeness and weakness feels really crucial, demonstrating control and respect at the same time.
Exactly. The second pillar is clarity over complexity. This builds right on our initial aha moment about simplicity. The U.S. workplace thrives on efficiency, right? Time is often equated with money. Convoluted communication just wastes both. So short, structured sentences are almost always preferred over long, winding, overly complex ones. The goal is to get your message across as directly and simply as possible. Think about the contrast. It might be a good idea if we perhaps consider arranging a meeting for Thursday. That's just a mouthful, full of hedges, qualifiers, unnecessary words.
Yeah, it makes you hunt for the real meaning.
Right. The professional preferred alternative is crisp and direct. Let's schedule a meeting for Thursday. It conveys the same message, but with much greater impact and efficiency. It's about cutting through the noise, respecting others' cognitive load. The value for directness and conciseness is paramount. It not only saves time and prevents misinterpretation, but it also projects decisiveness and clarity of thought. When you get straight to the point, you're implicitly signaling you've done your homework, you've processed the information, and you respect everyone's time enough to deliver the core message without a long preamble. If you ramble too much, it can be perceived not just as inefficient, but maybe as a lack of confidence in your own message, or even that you haven't fully thought through your ideas. It's about demonstrating intellectual rigor through brevity.
That's a fantastic point. Tying conciseness directly to intellectual rigor and confidence, that's a completely different way to think about how our words land.
And finally, we get to cultural awareness, specifically around directness. This is definitely a point where cultural norms can diverge quite significantly. Americans generally value directness in communication more than many other cultures, where maybe indirectness is favored to maintain harmony or save face. In the U.S., saying, "I disagree," isn't inherently rude, provided you follow it up with sound reasoning. For example, just stating, "I disagree," without any elaboration. That can be perceived as abrupt, even disrespectful, because it lacks justification. But if you follow it with something like, "Because I think this method may cost us more in the long run," you've just transformed a potentially blunt statement into a professional contribution. You've shown critical thinking, offered a rationale for your position, you've turned disagreement into a constructive dialogue. That's the critical balance. Directness coupled with logical justification. It shows your disagreement isn't personal. It's based on a thoughtful consideration of the facts, the potential implications. However, it's also worth noting there are nuances, even within U.S. directness.
Well, it's generally valued in highly sensitive personal matters, or maybe when you're initially exploring a potentially controversial new idea, a slightly more indirect approach might still be better, just to gauge reactions before direct pronouncement. For instance, instead of "your idea is flawed," you might start with, "I'm curious about the potential implications of this approach on X," or "have we considered the long-term impact on Y," before directly stating your concern.
Ah, okay.
That subtle indirectness allows for exploration without immediate confrontation. It can be useful when navigating complex or emotionally charged topics.
That's a vital distinction within directness itself. It shows it's not a one-size-fits-all rule, even in a generally direct culture. So when we put all these principles together, politeness, clarity, and that culturally nuanced directness, the overall aim isn't just about speaking correctly, it's about something much bigger, isn't it?
Exactly. It's about conveying a powerful sense of confidence and capability. In the U.S. workplace, your communication style directly shapes your professional reputation. Mastering these principles opens doors to opportunities because you're seen as someone who can articulate ideas clearly, engage respectfully, resolve issues constructively, and ultimately contribute effectively to the team's success. It's how you establish yourself as credible, reliable, a valuable asset, someone who not only has good ideas, but can effectively communicate them and navigate the professional landscape.
Mastering first impressions, professional introductions at work.
Okay, so we've laid out the foundational principles. But where do these principles first really come into play in a tangible way? Often, it's right in those initial moments, those crucial first impressions. Let's talk about how to master your opening act in the U.S. workplace. Whether you're Alex walking into a new office for the first time, or maybe just joining a new project team meeting.
Indeed. A professional introduction is so much more than just stating your name. It's your initial signal. It signals who you are, how you operate professionally, and your willingness to engage and collaborate. It immediately shapes how others perceive your competence, your approachability. It really sets the tone for all future interactions.
Our sources jump right into a common scenario that can easily trip up anyone new to the U.S. workplace, or even seasoned professionals who aren't used to American casualness. Imagine this. You walk into an office or step onto an elevator, and someone casually says, "Hey, what's up?" Or maybe, "How's it going?" Now, if you're not deeply familiar with American English, your first instinct might be to answer literally right. I have to admit, the first time I heard, "What's up?" my mind raced to, "Is the sky falling?" Or, "Nothing much, just standing here." It's a classic trap, isn't it?
It's a perfectly natural instinct. But that's precisely where the cultural misstep often happens. While a literal answer seems logical, "What's up?" or "How's it going?" in this context is almost always just a casual greeting. Think of it like "hello" or "how are you?" A literal response can make you seem a bit awkward or overly serious, maybe even aloof, because it misses the social cue. It's not a literal question, it's just acknowledging presence. The professional responses our source suggests are much better. "Not much, how's it going?" which immediately returns the greeting. Or, even better in a work setting, "Hi, good to meet you. I'm Alex. I'll be working with the finance team." This small detail, just understanding that a casual greeting doesn't always need a literal answer, is incredibly critical for cultural integration. It shows you get the unwritten rules of interaction, builds rapport, and signals you're attuned to the workplace's social landscape.
So, beyond just those casual greetings, there's a specific formula that Americans tend to appreciate for a short, professional self-introduction. It's concise, but it packs in key information that immediately gives context and helps build connection.
Right. This formula is all about efficiency and relevance, making sure you give the most important info right up front. It generally includes, first, your name, spoken clearly, confidently. And often, if your name is unusual or maybe hard for native English speakers to pronounce, it's considered thoughtful to be ready to spell it out or offer a phonetic pronunciation. Helps people address you correctly, shows respect from your end, too.
Good point.
Second, your role or department, like "I'm working in marketing" or "I'm part of the design team." This immediately provides context who you are, what you do, helping others quickly place you in the organization. Third, a connection point. This is crucial for a couple of reasons. First, it shows how your work links to theirs or to the team's broader goals. For instance, "I'll be supporting the sales team with client reports," or "I'll be collaborating with engineering on the new product launch." Second, and just as important, it's kind of an implicit invitation for future interaction. By highlighting how your work intersects with theirs, you open the door for collaboration. You show you understand the bigger picture of the company's goals.
So for you, the listener, as you hear this, maybe think about how you'd phrase your own connection point based on your work. How does what you do link to the larger goals or other teams? Practicing that can make a huge difference in how quickly people get your value and integrate you into their mental map of the organization. Our sources also list some key phrases that are really impactful for professional introductions, and they showcase that middle ground we talked about earlier. Things like, "Nice to meet you. I'm name and I work in department," or "I just joined last week and I'm looking forward to collaborating with you," or even, "Let me know if I can support your team in any way."
Those phrases work so well because they hit that desired professional middle ground. They're direct, which is valued for clarity and efficiency, but they're also inherently polite and open. More importantly, they signal an openness to teamwork, a proactive attitude. When you say, I'm looking forward to collaborating with you, or let me know if I can support your team, you're not just introducing yourself.
Yeah.
You're expressing a willingness to engage, to be a team player, to contribute beyond just your immediate duties. They avoid being overly personal, which can be awkward in new professional settings, but they also steer clear of being so cold you seem unapproachable. This balance is really a hallmark of U.S. workplaces. Hierarchy is often less rigid than in some other cultures, and a certain degree of warmth and collegiality is encouraged alongside professional respect. It sets a comfortable, productive tone right from the start.
It's interesting how our sources highlight that common mistake of being either too formal or too casual. We've probably all heard examples, maybe even used them ourselves, like, it is a distinct honor to make your acquaintance. Sounds like you're in an old movie, doesn't it? Maybe meeting royalty.
Right. A bit much.
And then the other end, yo, I'm Sam. What's going on? That's clearly too casual for almost any professional environment, unless maybe you're in a very specific, highly informal tech startup.
The professional middle ground, as our sources put it so well, is something like, Hi, I'm Sam. I work with the project management team. Glad to meet you. That sentence perfectly balances respect with approachability. It's concise, informative, friendly, but not overly familiar. This balance is characteristic of U.S. workplaces, where that mix of respect and approachability is key. It sets a comfortable, productive tone and signals you understand the nuances of the environment.
Okay, what about nonverbal cues? Our sources mention how the handshake has evolved, especially post-pandemic. Is a handshake still the standard, or are there other acceptable ways to greet someone now?
That's a great question, and it really speaks to how professional norms adapt. Handshakes used to be pretty much the universal standard, yeah. But now, there's definitely more flexibility. You might still get a firm handshake, absolutely. But you could also see a friendly wave, a respectful nod, or simply a warm smile. The crucial point here, as our sources emphasize, isn't really the specific gesture itself. It's the confidence in your voice, your open body language, your genuine willingness to engage. Even if you don't shake hands, making direct eye contact, where that's culturally comfortable, having a clear voice, an open posture, these are vital nonverbal cues. They convey confidence, approachability, readiness to connect. These signals often speak louder than any single gesture. And it's important to remember, introductions aren't just a day one thing. Every new meeting, especially now with so much virtual work, is an opportunity for a quick professional self-introduction that builds your credibility. Think of Alex joining a new cross-functional team meeting online. Instead of just her name popping up on screen, she might say something like, Good morning, everyone. This is Alex from the HR team. I'll be covering the updates on employee benefits today. This kind of clear, concise introduction immediately establishes who you are, why you're relevant to the discussion, and your preparedness. It reinforces your professional image in every interaction, big or small.
So whether you're in person or online, every new meeting you join, first time or 50th, is really a chance to reinforce that strong professional image. It's truly an ongoing process, contributing to your overall professional brand.
Navigating meetings with poise and impact.
All right, let's talk about meetings. Often seen as the ultimate proving ground for professional communication skills. They're not just about sharing information, are they? For a professional, they're really about demonstrating confidence, respecting everyone's time, and showing your ability to contribute effectively.
Absolutely. In the U.S. workplace, meetings are dynamic spaces. Passive attendance is often seen as, well, a lack of engagement. Active contribution is highly valued. It's where your ability to articulate ideas clearly, ask sharp questions, and engage constructively really comes to the forefront. It's a key arena for demonstrating your value, your intellectual curiosity, and your commitment to the team's success. This is definitely where Alex can make her mark.
You know, the first rule that really jumps out about meetings is be concise. I think we've all seen how quickly people can just zone out if a point takes too long or if someone starts rambling. But why is this so critical in the U.S. workplace? Beyond just saving time, is there a deeper cultural reason this brevity is almost like non-negotiable?
That's a fantastic question because, yeah, it goes deeper than just efficiency. In the US, conciseness isn't just polite, it actually projects decisiveness and clarity of thought. When you get straight to the point, you're implicitly signaling you've done your homework, you've processed the information, and you respect everyone's time enough to deliver the core message without a lot of fluff. If you ramble too much, it can be perceived not just as inefficiency, but maybe as lack of confidence in your own message, or even a sign you haven't fully thought through your ideas. Our source gives a perfect example of this. Instead of that lengthy, hesitant phrasing like, I have a few different ideas that I've been thinking about for quite some time, and maybe, possibly, we could try them if it's not too much trouble.
Oh, that was painful.
Right. The professional alternative is just simple. I have two ideas we could try to improve our process. Impact of that shift is huge. Conciseness doesn't just save time, it conveys clarity of thought, decisiveness, confidence. It shows you've organized your thoughts, you respect the agenda. It leads to a perception of efficiency and strong leadership, even if you're not formally leading the meeting. Helps you cut through the noise, get your message across effectively, makes you a more impactful, memorable contributor.
So it's about being clear and direct, not, beating around the bush. But active participation is more than just sharing your own ideas, right? It's not just about getting your own voice heard.
It absolutely is. Active participation means you're not just waiting for your turn to talk or planning what you'll say next. It means you're fully engaged, listening carefully, contributing to the shared understanding of the group. This often involves asking clarifying questions or confirming your understanding. That prevents miscommunication later on, and it shows you're actually paying attention. Phrases like, just to clarify, are we focusing on next quarter's budget or the current one? Show you're paying attention to details. You want accuracy. That builds trust. Or, if I understand correctly, the main priority is improving customer satisfaction, right? This confirms alignment, prevents assumptions, makes sure everyone's on the same page. Even supportive phrases like, that's a good point, and one way we could support that idea is demonstrate active engagement and a collaborative spirit. It shows you can build on what others are saying. These phrases are powerful. They show you're not just physically present, but you're actively processing information, thinking critically, helping move the discussion forward. This fosters a really collaborative and productive environment, signaling your value to the team.
Now, this next point, this can be a real hurdle for many people, especially for English learners who worry about sounding rude or disrespectful. It's the art of disagreeing politely. It's a common fear, isn't it? Just holding back your opinion rather than risking offense, particularly in a new cultural setting.
You've really hit on a significant cultural nuance there. In U.S. business culture, outright disagreement isn't just accepted, it's often welcomed. It's seen as a sign of critical thinking, analytical skills, genuine engagement, provided it's done respectfully and constructively. The problem isn't the disagreement itself, it's how you deliver it. Just saying you're wrong is, rude and unproductive. It's an attack on the person, not the idea. Our sources give some excellent alternatives that maintain professionalism and keep the focus on the issue. Instead, you might say, I see it differently. My concern is that this method might increase costs in the long run. See how that frames your disagreement as a different perspective based on a valid, objective concern. Or, that's an interesting idea, but I wonder if we should also consider another option, perhaps one that addresses X challenge more directly. This acknowledges their idea while introducing an alternative respectfully. You could even use a softer lead-in, like, I'm not sure I entirely agree because, and then give your reasoning. These phrases show you can think critically, evaluate ideas, contribute diverse perspectives without making it personal. It connects right back to that core principle of cultural awareness. Directness with reasoning. It's about ideas debating, not people arguing. This approach ultimately leads to stronger decisions because all relevant perspectives get considered.
And just as important as how you start and participate is how you finish your point. Our sources highlight a crucial aspect: ending your points with confidence. We've probably all heard someone kind of trail off, sounding unsure of their own conclusion, almost apologizing for having spoken.
Yes, that hesitant ending. Yeah, so that's what I think, I guess. Or maybe just a thought.
It can significantly undermine the impact of everything you just said. It projects uncertainty, a lack of conviction, a sort of wishy-washy attitude, even if your ideas were brilliant and well-reasoned. It leaves the listener with a feeling of incompleteness or doubt. Instead, our sources advise closing strongly, conclusively. For instance, after presenting your points, a powerful ending would be something like, "So I recommend we test this on a small scale before rolling it out company-wide."
Clear action. Exactly. Or, therefore, the next step should be to gather more data on client feedback. This final sentence isn't just a summary, it's a confident call to action, a clear statement of your conviction, or a decisive conclusion. A strong close reinforces your authority, clarifies your stance, leaves a lasting professional impression. It makes your contribution memorable and impactful, signals you're decisive and have thought your ideas through to their logical end.
And in today's world, well, we can't really talk about meetings without talking about virtual meetings. There are definitely modern nuances to professionalism here too, beyond just your spoken words, that can significantly impact how you're perceived.
Indeed, technical awareness is now really a critical part of professional communication, especially in remote or hybrid setups. This includes seemingly small details like muting your mic when you're not speaking, eliminates that distracting background noise, ensuring you have clear, high-quality audio so people can actually hear you without straining or asking you to repeat yourself.
So important.
And even paying attention to your camera angle and lighting, just to present yourself clearly. Using short professional greetings when you join, like, "Good morning, everyone, glad to be here," or "Hi, team, this is Alex, ready to join," also sets a positive tone. These aren't just technical courtesies. They really contribute significantly to how people perceive your organization, your preparedness, and your respect for others' time in a remote environment. They signal you're mindful of the shared virtual space and ready to contribute without distractions, enhancing your professional image.
So whether you're in person or online, every meeting is truly a chance to show you're a valuable part of the team, proving your communication skills and building your professional image through both what you say and, well, how you conduct yourself.
The art of constructive feedback giving and receiving for growth.
Okay, let's shift gears now and talk about feedback. This is one of those areas that can feel incredibly sensitive in any workplace, really, regardless of the culture. But our sources really frame feedback in the U.S. workplace as a critical tool for growth, not as personal criticism. And this reframing, this mindset shift, is absolutely key for professional development. Truly understanding it can lessen that initial knot of anxiety Alex might feel.
It's a crucial distinction, and one that often gets lost, either in translation or just due to cultural differences. In many cultures, direct feedback, especially if it points out a mistake, can feel like an attack, right? A personal judgment, maybe a sign of failure. But in the U.S., it's fundamentally about improvement. It's often seen almost as a gift, an investment in your development, designed to help you perform better and advance your career. However, the way feedback is given and received is absolutely paramount. It determines whether you're seen as professional and open to learning, or maybe unprofessional and defensive, and it significantly impacts team cohesion.
And the common mistakes are everywhere when it comes to giving feedback. Being way too direct, like, "This report is bad," ouch, or being way too vague, just shrugging and saying, "That's fine, I guess." Neither is helpful, are they? One just demoralizes, the other offers zero actionable insight.
Not helpful at all. Both extremes fail. The source introduces what it calls the constructive feedback method, which is incredibly effective. It's both polite and specific, allowing you to deliver impactful suggestions without alienating the person. It's a three-part approach. First, start positive. Begin by acknowledging something the person did well. For example, Alex, you did a great job organizing the data in this report. It's very thorough. This sets a positive, appreciative tone. It shows you've genuinely looked at their work, not just hunted for flaws. It also makes the recipient more receptive to what comes next because they feel seen and valued.
Okay, start with the good stuff.
Exactly. Second, add a suggestion. This is where you introduce the area for improvement. One way to make it even stronger, especially for our executive audience, is to simplify the charts and maybe distill them down to just the 2 key takeaways. Notice the phrasing, one way to make it even stronger. It implies improvement, progress, not failure. It's a suggestion, not a command. Focuses on the work, not the person. Third, end with encouragement. Reinforce the positive outcome of their efforts. That way, your key points will stand out more clearly and make the executive summary even more impactful. This shows the benefit of taking the suggestion and keeps the focus on shared success, the positive impact of their efforts. This pattern is incredibly powerful. It ensures the recipient knows exactly what to improve without feeling attacked or discouraged. It fosters an environment of continuous improvement and psychological safety, essential for healthy team dynamics and individual growth. It shifts the focus from what went wrong to how can we make this better, making feedback feel more like a collaborative process, less like a confrontation.
Now, on the flip side, receiving feedback, that can feel incredibly uncomfortable, even if you intellectually understand its purpose. But our sources really highlight that accepting feedback professionally is a sign of maturity. It's a critical part of growth in American workplace culture.
It truly is. Your reaction to feedback speaks volumes about your character, your resilience, your readiness for growth, instead of immediately jumping to, no, I don't think so, or just falling silent, which can be read as defensive, stubborn, or disengaged. The professional responses suggested by our source emphasize openness, a willingness to learn, like, thanks for pointing that out, I'll adjust it. Direct, acknowledges the feedback, states a clear action, or I appreciate the feedback. Could you give me an example so I understand better what you mean? This shows you're engaged, committed to understanding the specifics, not just blindly agreeing, demonstrates a desire for clarity and analytical approach.
Good one. Asking for examples.
Yeah. Or, that's helpful, I'll work on it for the next version project. Again, a clear, actionable response shows you've absorbed the input and intend to implement it, showing you're thinking forward. These responses are crucial because they visibly demonstrate openness, a lack of defensiveness, a commitment to improvement. It shows you value others' perspectives and you're dedicated to refining your skills. It's also important to understand the phrase constructive criticism. In the U.S. context, this explicitly means feedback intended for improvement, designed to build you up, not tear you down. So if your manager or a colleague uses this phrase, it's usually a signal they want to help you grow, and it should ideally be received in that spirit.
And it's not just about what you say when you receive feedback, is it? Your nonverbal cues are just as important, sometimes maybe even more so. Rolling your eyes, sighing heavily, crossing your arms, that can send a really strong negative message, even if your words are polite on the surface.
Exactly. Those nonverbal cues can completely undermine any polite words you manage to say. They suggest dismissiveness or anger or defensiveness, all highly unprofessional, and they shut down further helpful dialogue. Instead, positive nonverbal cues are vital. Nodding to show you're actively listening and processing. Maintaining eye contact, where culturally appropriate, of course, to convey engagement and respect. Even taking notes that visibly demonstrates you value the feedback and you're serious about applying it. These actions visibly communicate that you are open, respectful, committed to learning. That strengthens your professional image immensely and encourages others to continue investing in your development.
And feedback isn't just a top-down thing, from manager to employee. Our sources remind us that even as a newer team member like Alex, you might be asked to review a colleague's work or offer input on a project. This peer feedback is another chance to show professionalism and contribute to the team's success.
Absolutely. When giving peer feedback, the language you use should aim to be supportive, collaborative, helpful rather than critical or judgmental. Phrases like, "One thing I noticed is," or "Have you considered trying?" Frame your input as observations or gentle suggestions, not criticisms or commands, and combining positive affirmation with an area for improvement, like, "What I really like here is the clear structure you've built." And one way to improve it could be to add a brief executive summary at the top. That's incredibly effective. This kind of language positions you as a helpful, collaborative colleague who genuinely cares about team success, not someone just pointing out flaws. It contributes positively to team dynamics, fosters a culture of mutual support and continuous improvement, makes you a respected team player.
So professionalism and feedback really seems to come down to balancing honesty with respect and always keeping that goal of growth in mind. It shows you care about both the quality of the work and the strength of the relationships within your team.
Handling high-stakes moments, difficult conversation.
Okay, let's talk about what truly defines professionalism, what maybe separates the good communicators from the great ones, navigating difficult conversations. Whether it's addressing a mistake you made, negotiating responsibilities when your plate is just overflowing, or resolving conflict with a colleague, these uncomfortable moments are where professionalism truly shines.
You're absolutely right. How you handle these high-stakes situations when emotions can run high or the stakes are significant, it defines your reputation more than almost anything else. It's in these moments that your ability to remain composed, clear, focused on solutions is put to the ultimate test. It's where Alex can transform that anxiety into genuine confidence and really demonstrate her true capabilities.
The first principle here is critical, maybe the most challenging in the heat of the moment. Stay calm and objective. Our sources really underline the paramount importance of separating your emotions from the issue at hand. It's incredibly easy to let frustration or anger or even fear take over when you feel challenged.
Indeed. An emotional, reactive response can quickly derail a conversation, escalate conflict, damage relationships sometimes irreparably. The professional approach, as our source illustrates, is to focus on the behavior or the problem, not to attack or blame the person. Compare, "You're always late and it's driving me crazy. Your tardiness is disrupting everything." That's an emotional attack. A personal judgment with the professional alternative. "Alex, I've noticed you've been late to our team meetings this week, and it affects our progress and the schedule. Can we discuss this and find a solution together?"
Big difference.
Huge difference. That shift in focus is profound. It moves from blame and personal accusation to problem solving. That's a hallmark of professionalism. It signals your concern is about the work and its outcome, not a personal grievance or an emotional outburst. It invites collaboration, not confrontation. A powerful phrase to use in difficult conversations, which our sources highlight as a sign of emotional intelligence, is the acknowledge and respond style. "I understand your point about X, but here's my concern about Y." This phrase is incredibly effective. First, it shows empathy. It validates the other person's perspective. You're acknowledging their viewpoint, making them feel heard, respected. Only then do you introduce your own point or concern. This balance, showing respect while still being direct and firm with your own perspective, is highly valued in U.S. workplaces. It demonstrates emotional intelligence, a commitment to fair and honest dialogue, and an ability to navigate complex interpersonal dynamics effectively.
Okay, what about those situations where you might feel completely overwhelmed? Like when your manager gives you more work than you can realistically handle with your existing deadlines, it can be tempting to just say, "I can't do that," or "That's impossible." But our sources explain why that's not the professional approach, how it can actually backfire.
Right. Simply stating, "I can't do that," just sounds uncooperative, unhelpful, unprofessional. It basically creates a dead end in the conversation, leaves your manager with no solution. Instead, a solution-focused response is crucial. The example given is excellent. It embodies proactive problem solving. "I'd be happy to take this on, but based on my current workload, I'll need to shift the deadline for my other task, Z, to accommodate it. Which one should be the priority for this week?"
This communicates several professional qualities at once: your willingness to help, your awareness of your current workload and commitments, and your proactive approach to finding a solution. You're not saying no, you're saying yes if we prioritize and adjust. This shows both commitment to your responsibilities and the ability to set realistic boundaries. That earns respect and trust from your superiors. Shows you're not just identifying a problem, you're offering a path forward.
And apologies. We all make mistakes, right? From small typos to maybe more significant errors. But the U.S. cultural expectation for apologies in a professional setting is very specific, isn't it? It's not about over-apologizing or getting overly emotional. That's absolutely right. In U.S. culture, a professional apology is concise, direct, and most importantly, followed by a concrete action plan. A plan to rectify the mistake or prevent it from happening again. Our sources give the perfect example. I apologize for missing the deadline. I have reorganized my schedule and I'll deliver the report on time moving forward. This is effective because it takes clear responsibility for the error, states the specific mistake, and then immediately pivots to what you've done or will do to fix it and prevent future issues. What you generally want to avoid are excessive apologies, like, "I'm so sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me, please forgive me." While maybe well-intentioned and common in some cultures to show remorse, too much emotion or self-deprecation in a U.S. professional setting can actually weaken your image. It might convey a lack of self-assurance and shifts the focus from the solution to your emotional state. A concise apology plus a concrete action plan builds trust, demonstrates reliability and accountability.
And when you're on the receiving end of harsh criticism, maybe even unfair criticism, how do you handle that professionally without immediately becoming defensive or confrontational, especially if your gut reaction is just to push back hard?
This takes a high degree of maturity, emotional regulation. Instead of reacting defensively or trying to justify yourself right away, which often just escalates tension, a powerful and strategic response is something like, "I hear what you're saying. Let me think about how I can improve that." Or maybe, "Thank you for the feedback. I'll take some time to consider your points."
Ah,
This kind of response does several critical things. It acknowledges the feedback without necessarily agreeing with its harshness or even its validity. It diffuses the immediate tension by showing you're listening. And it buys you crucial time to process the criticism rationally before you formulate a considered response or action plan. It shows you're a thoughtful individual, capable of self-reflection, not someone who reacts impulsively. This approach can often disarm the critic and demonstrates your professionalism under pressure. Finally, in really tense or emotionally charged situations, using neutral phrases can be incredibly effective. Just to redirect the conversation, keep it constructive. Phrases like, "Let's focus on finding a solution here rather than dwelling on the problem." Or, "I think we both want the same outcome, so how can we get there collaboratively?" Or even, "This is a complex issue. Can we set up a follow-up to make sure this is resolved effectively and we have clear action items?" These phrases redirect the energy away from conflict and blame towards collaboration and problem solving. They remind everyone involved that the shared goal is to resolve the issue, not to win an argument or assign blame. They demonstrate leadership, even in a challenging moment.
So it's really clear professionalism and conflict isn't about avoiding it entirely. Conflict is often inevitable in a dynamic workplace. It's about managing it with calmness, clarity, respect, focusing on solutions, not personal attacks. It's how you build that reputation for reliability, emotional intelligence, and ultimately become a highly valued team member, maybe even a leader. Outro. Wow, we've really journeyed through a lot today. From those initial introductions that set the stage for how Alex or you are perceived, to navigating dynamic meetings with poise, mastering the delicate art of giving and receiving feedback for growth, and finally, handling those really high-stakes, difficult conversations that test our true professional mettle.
And if we connect all this to the bigger picture, the central idea tying these segments together is this. Professionalism in communication isn't about isolated rules you just memorize for each scenario. It's about seamlessly combining these principles into a consistent communication style, a style that fundamentally builds trust and earns respect. Every single interaction you have at work, whether it's a quick chat in the hallway, an email exchange, a formal presentation, it contributes to shaping your professional reputation. Your words are a powerful tool in controlling that impression. Are you seen as clear, respectful, confident, a proactive problem solver? Or do your communications maybe inadvertently create confusion or tension or distance?
So let's just briefly reiterate those 4 core principles one last time, maybe inviting you, the listener, to reflect on how you might apply them in your own interactions, maybe starting today.
Okay. First, clarity over complexity. Consistently use short, direct sentences. Resist that urge to use overly academic or obscure words just to sound smart. Professionals in the U.S. really value efficiency in communication. Second, politeness with confidence. Remember, being respectful doesn't mean being weak or submissive. Instead of hedging with phrases like, sorry to interrupt, but confidently state your suggestions, I suggest we consider, or let's explore, conveys both respect and conviction. Third, cultural awareness, especially around directness. Americans appreciate directness, but it must always be paired with reasoning and respect. Saying I disagree is fine if you follow it with a logical explanation, maybe a proposed solution. And finally, cultivate a constructive mindset. Whether giving feedback or navigating disagreement, always focus on improvement and solutions, not on blame or personal fault. Phrases like, one way to make this better is, or how can we solve this, demonstrate that positive problem-solving approach. What's often surprising to people from more formal cultures is that unique balance you find in the U.S. workplace. It's a nuanced blend of formality and friendliness. Unlike some cultures where professional language is strictly formal, American professional speech often mixes respect with an approachable demeanor. You might hear a manager say, great job, team, let's grab some coffee, with genuine enthusiasm right after a really serious discussion about budget projections.
Yeah, you do hear that.
It shows that professional doesn't always mean stiff or emotionless or overly formal in every single interaction. It means being appropriate for the specific situation, demonstrating adaptability, a personable approach, while still maintaining respect for the context and the gravity of the topic when needed.
And if there's one ultimate aha moment to take away from this entire deep dive, one thing that should truly set your mind at ease, it's this. Professional English is not about grammatical perfection. It's really about connection and clear understanding.
This brings up an important question, right? Can you be professional even if your grammar isn't flawless? And the answer is a resounding yes. While continuous improvement's always good, of course, even with occasional grammatical imperfections, if you prioritize clarity, maintain a polite tone, and exude confidence in your delivery, you will be perceived as professional. For instance, rather than agonizing over whether you should say, I have spoken or I spoke, just focus on the direct delivery of your core idea. I sent the report yesterday. The emphasis is always on clear, effective idea transmission over absolute linguistic perfection. Your ability to connect your ideas to others, foster understanding, drive action that's far more valuable than perfect verb tenses.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener? For Alex, we really encourage you to start actively observing. Notice how your colleagues speak. Pay attention to the professional phrases they use, maybe even jot them down. Then, step by step, try incorporating them into your own communication.
What's truly compelling here is that every meeting, every introduction, every conversation is a chance to practice and refine these skills. It's about consistent, deliberate effort, like building any muscle. With practice, you'll not only notice a significant boost in your own confidence, but you'll also likely feel a tangible shift in the respect and positive regard you receive from others in your workplace. This isn't just about sounding correct, it's about feeling empowered.
Ultimately, this deep dive really shows us that professional communication isn't just about the words we choose. It's about the relationships we build and the authentic, confident version of ourselves we present to the world. So here's a final thought. How might actively shaping your communication style unlock not just career opportunities, but maybe also deeper, more meaningful connections with your colleagues and peers?
Because at the end of the day, this skill isn't merely about mastering a language, it's about confidently showing the best version of yourself, fostering stronger relationships, and allowing your true capabilities to shine through in every single professional interaction. Keep practicing, keep reflecting, and watch your impact grow.